welcome in Anthony Broome. Anthony, appreciate you joining us today.
Anthony!
Oh, happy to join. Thanks for having me. Apologies for technical difficulties, but here we are.
No, hey, you're good, Anthony. We've had a few. We're a newer show here. We've had a few guests on, and we've had issues with our V mix on our side here. So we appreciate you a ton joining us. I know today was actually a pretty. When I messaged you
right? And
we set today up, and then today started going on, I realized there was a lot of things that started coming out with the Jim Harbaugh stuff, all the NCAA, the transfer, everything came out today. So Anthony, I just want to start it off here real quick. One of the big news things here today was the Chargers are interested in Jim Harbaugh. So this has been on my mind all day. I cannot get this out of my head. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think this is just kind of burning fire, or is this an actual thing that he could actually leave to the NFL again?
Yeah, I think there's no question that he could certainly look to the NFL again. The fact that there is a contract extension on the table right now that seemingly would be, make him highest paid coach in the Big Ten, $55 million over 5 years is what's been floated out there. But, still some work to do on the language in terms of guarantees and things like that. I don't fully know what that entails, but yeah, when it comes to the NFL, so much of your success now depends on the quarterback that you have. And if the Chargers were interested and if there was mutual interest in it,
There are a lot of questions about the span and some of the players they have on offense
and defense too. And I know they have cap issues and things like that. I think that's all overblown.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago when he almost took the Minnesota Vikings job, similar situation where you've got the quarterback in place, but you have cap issues and you're probably staring at a transitional period. But I don't think that really matters to him. I think if it's something that clearly to me, that itch is still there. His brother has a Super Bowl. He doesn't. Wouldn't be surprised if Jim Harbaugh wants to go win 2 Super Bowls and one up his brother. But I would say the longer that things go without a contract being signed at Michigan, it's absolutely in play that he could go back. And interestingly enough, Black Monday in the NFL this year is the same day as the national championship game. So,
no way.
Again, if Michigan finds a way to kind of ride this thing out and maybe win it all, it might just be the perfect situation for him to say, you know what, I came back, I delivered on what I was hired to do, it's time for me to go back to the NFL. So I really do think all options are on the table here. I really do.
I'm really hoping, Anthony, I'm hoping within the next couple of weeks, somehow, some way, we all get an alert across our phones that there's a contract extension signed by Jim Harbaugh. I don't know if it'll happen, but hopefully. Broder?
Yes, Anthony, thanks for joining the show. This is Matt Broder, the co-host to Booner over here. Before we talk about this current team and their chase for a national championship, I just want to ask you about one more thing that might get in the way of a possible contract extension, and that's the notice of allegations that came out today that the NCAA gave to the University of Michigan. It involves 4 level 2 allegations and then a level 1 or infractions, I should say. Could you give our viewers just a brief rundown on that and really what the timeline or what that might look like moving forward? Because I know there's some timing that goes along with it. It's going to take some time for that to come out. We're not going to hear it before the national championship. Could you just give us a little bit of breakdown of what that means?
Yeah, so basically what a notice of allegations is, and again, there's been some questions about the timing of it, and did the NCAA drop it this week to get in the way of bowl prep and National Signing Day? No, I don't think so.
It wasn't a big plot twist. We knew that was going to come from that recruiting violations investigation. It is kind of interesting to me that Michigan was served a draft notice of these allegations back in January, and then now it comes out, whatever it is, 11 months later, where it's official. But basically, what happens from here now is that Michigan now has 90 days to respond in writing, and then from the day that Michigan submits its response, the NCAA will then have another 60 days to respond back to that, to where things probably from there go to a hearing. That's something that never happens quickly. You're probably looking at a 2 to 3 month timeline after that. So now you're looking at a situation where this is something that's dragging out into, next off season, deep and maybe even into the spring and summer. There could be an appeals process, which then pushes things back another 5 or 6 months. So again, knowing the way the NCAA operates,
this is not going to move quickly. And it's not, this is simply for the quote-unquote Burgergate stuff. This has nothing to do with the sign stealing. That's a separate investigation that, we don't even know. We don't know what rules they've technically violated in that yet. So, to me, it's another layer to this whole conversation. Again, I know the 4 level 2s. I think those are things that, with some good lawyering, you probably get around that with a fine, some probation, things like that. It's that level 1 that hangs over Jim Harbaugh for potentially misleading or not cooperating with an investigation that kind of hangs over his head. So we know the NCAA wasn't happy with the 4 games that was originally planned between Michigan and the NCAA. Michigan self-imposed 3 to kind of soften the blow, and then we'll see what happens from there. So, crazy times. Just again, it is never a dull. People ask me all the time, when the season's over, what do you guys have to talk about? Literally everything, because it never stops with this guy and this program.
Hey, you like to stay. We all like to stay busy. Real quick, and I just saw this off the top of my head with these kind of allegations and the NCAA stuff, that level 1 violation. And you might not be able to answer this, Anthony, so if you can't, no big deal. But with the sign stealing stuff and this level 1, is this something that could be like a major, like double, like, I'm trying to think of the word, but like
death penalty.
Not death penalty. No, don't say that, Nick. Whoa. But more so just like, hey, you get hit with 2 violations, like big time ones in this offseason, and next year it's like Jim Harbaugh's out for almost the whole year, because there are 2 separate things going on, and I'm not sure how the NCAA will. They're investigating 2 different windows here. Is that like a big concern that you do think, or will it kind of be all looped into one? I'm kind of interested in that, to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's interesting because, knowing everything we do right now, and again, there is still an investigation ongoing, but things have really come to a screeching halt with, the sign stealing stuff. And I think everything that's out there right now is what everybody knows. So there could always be more evidence that emerges, but in the here and now, you're probably looking at some petty level 2, level 3 sort of sanctions for that. If there were, again, it's still unclear what rules were even violated, what the spirit of the rules were, etc. Jim Harbaugh, I think that as long as nothing comes out that incriminates him with the sign stealing scandal, and again, you're talking about a Big Ten imposed suspension there, the 3 games. Again, that might even have been, who's to say, that might have been an overreaction in terms of what his punishment is. So again, I don't know. I think if you're looking at more games served for Jim Harbaugh, I do think that's probably something that's more in the recruiting investigation ordeal. I think the NCAA wanted 6 originally. Again, I do think that once the initial bluster of those 4 or 5 weeks where it just seemed like there was something new every day about Michigan football and Connor Stallions, once that kind of subsided and you're sitting here going, I think the question that a lot of people still can't really answer is, when you look at his suspension that came down from the Big Ten, it's why was Jim Harbaugh suspended? And no one can really answer that still. So to me, again, I don't know that, maybe it's possible that the NCAA looks at that situation as potential time served. I doubt it, being that, it really does kind of seem like they have it out for this guy. But if Jim Harbaugh were to get more of a suspension, I'd have to think, given everything that we know, it wouldn't be more than maybe 2 or 3 additional games. And at the end of the day, it all comes full circle with the conversation we started with in terms of the contract extension in the NFL. Like, does he want to deal with this? And that's the other consideration too.